What's going on, guys? It's Mr. BlackMagik of the DRM Gamecast back in with another review, and this time it is for Livelock on Xbox One. This is a top-down 3-player co-op shooter, and the premise of the story is you and your teammates must break the cycle of infinite warfare against the machines. So there's a cataclysmic event, wipes out humanity, and now you and your crew are trying to revive it. So I'm going to first go over 3 characters. Like I said, this is 3-player co-op. It's one of those games that really is built for co-op, really built for 3-player co-op in this instance. And so the way it works is there's 3 characters that you can choose from right off the bat. Hex, Vanguard, and Catalyst. And so they all have little different playstyles. They all have different weapons, different abilities, which are called functions. And so I'm showing you these 3 now. The first one is Hex. He's kind of like a long-range type. He uses a bunch of rifles, a burst rifle gun, a sniper rifle, and he's kind of like the main damage guy of the group, but precision, you know, he's all about precision. The next one is kind of like the tank character, Vanguard. He has melee weapons, so his main weapon are just gauntlets. He's just running around punching people, doesn't even use a gun. And then he also has this big anvil. It's like a big kind of hammer you just start swinging around. And then the other one is a support class, Catalyst, and she can actually heal your teammates. So if you just shoot your gun at your teammates, you'll heal them. But at the same time, it'll do a little bit amount of damage to enemies. But then once you start leveling up, she also gets all these other abilities where you can do a area of effect heal. You can drop drones, you know, like a little turret that'll just shoot enemies. You can put out holograms, like 3 holograms of yourself that'll shoot enemies for you. So it gets really crazy. These get into gameplay here in a minute, but this game you level up as you progress. So there's 30 levels total, and you know, every so often you'll unlock a new ability, a new gun. Throughout the game, when you're running around, you're picking up this carbon, which is basically the upgrade resource in the game. So you'll find it in boxes. Sometimes enemies will drop it. Sometimes it'll just be around in the environment. You break something and some carbon will drop, and you pick that up and use that to upgrade your weapons. Use that to buy new weapons. So every character has 2 weapons in each category. So there's your primary, your secondary, and your launcher. So each character has 6 guns in total, and you'll start to unlock those just as you level up. And then you also have functions, which are your abilities. They're mapped to A and B on the Xbox controller. And you get, I think it's about 5 functions that you can select 2 of to equip at a time. And then you get another one, which is kind of like your ultimate function, which is your most powerful move. And those are all on just a normal cooldown timer. And the game gets really hectic once you start getting into some gameplay, especially when you get a little bit later on. Once you start to have all 3 of your weapons, you start to have your ultimate function. It can get really hectic. This is one of those games I like in these style of top-down shooter games when they get really crazy and it's just particle effects everywhere. And this game definitely delivers on that. So like I said, there's a cataclysmic event and humanity is wiped out. So the game, you are 3 intelligent robots and you're fighting other intelligent robotic enemies. So there's tons of different types of enemies, but they're all robots. And so, like I said, it's 3-player co-op. You can actually play it either solo, 2 or 3 players, and you don't have to play with one of each class. I think it's suited for if you're playing in 3-player co-op to have one of each class, but you could play all 3 as the same class. You could play 2 and 1, whatever, you know, or you can just play 2-player co-op. You can play it solo, whichever way you like. I think it's a little better to play in 3-player co-op. I played through the whole game, I played through it the whole game twice, and there's 3 difficulties: easy, normal, and hard. You actually get more XP on the higher difficulty you're on, but obviously the enemies are harder. And it seems like the enemies do scale when you're in co-op compared to solo. It didn't seem like it scaled when you're playing 2 players versus 3 players. It just seems like it scales whether you're playing by yourself or not. And the game can get pretty tough on hard if you're not leveled up. I mean, if you beat the game once and say you get to level 30, you're a max level character, well then hard's not going to be that bad. And the same is said from co-op to solo. If you're playing in solo, the game scales way down. It's a lot easier, and you can have a much easier time on solo. But the way the gameplay works, I really enjoyed it. It's one of those. It's not one of those games where you're kind of tethered. I know some games like this where you all share the same screen, or you know the camera is focused on the host maybe. But these maps are really wide open, and you can just freely roam around them any way you want. You know, I mean, obviously if the objective blocks you off, well then you can't get past that. You have to complete the objective. But a lot of the maps are really open, and all three of the players can just go wherever they want. You know, you don't have to necessarily follow along right next to each other. There's not little tiny paths that you're all being funneled down. They're really wide open. Tons of destruction. There'll be cars and trucks and buildings and walls all over the place, and just because you're a badass robot, you can basically just truck through anything. You can just walk right through cars. There's this ice level near the end where there's all these boats on a frozen lake, and you can just plow right through the boats and they just explode into a million splinters of wood. Or just plow right through a wall, you know, kind of crumbled, broken down wall. And it'll just blow up and just go right through it. And so like I said, rank up to level 30. There's also a scoring and leaderboard system. So there's a leaderboard for each level. And the scoring, it works on a combo system. So you kill a couple enemies, and you'll have 3 seconds in between each kill to rack up your kill streak, basically. And then there's also these little blue items that they drop, and that is basically adding to your combo. So in the top right corner, you can always see your combo going up and your score adding to that. It's actually interesting because the combo, usually in games when there's a combo system, once you lose your combo it goes back to 0. This game it actually just goes down 1. So if you're at 90 and it ticks down and you haven't gotten a kill yet, it won't just reset to 0, it'll just go to 89. Which is really, I don't know, a really easy way, I guess, to set that up. A really forgiving combo system, which kind of goes hand in hand with the death system. So instead of reviving, you actually don't revive your teammates. If you're thinking a co-op game, okay, one person goes down, alright, just revive them. You actually have infinite lives, which is kind of weird. Even when you're playing in solos. Solo co-op, as long as you're not playing in the other survival mode, which I'll get to that in a minute, you have infinite lives. So basically when you die, you just call in a drop pod, it repairs you, and you're back alive, and you can go right again. And there's no penalty to that. There's no, you know, okay, you can do this 3 times and then you're out. Nothing like that. It's just revive as many times as you want. The only penalty to it is if you die like once, your score gets, I think, your score multiplier gets halved, and then if you die again, then you get no extra multiplier at the end. So it just affects your score. So I mean, if you're going for leaderboards, obviously you don't want to die. But other than that, if you're just playing through the game, I mean, you can just respawn as many times as you want, which is a little weird. So the game has 21 missions across 3 acts. There was some frame rate drops we noticed playing in co-op. Once it gets a little hectic with tons of enemies on the screen, tons of powers going off, there were some noticeable frame rate drops, and it happened enough where I feel I have to mention it. Usually things like that I don't even bother, but it happened enough where it needs to be mentioned. And then there's so the story mode, but then there's also an infinite survival mode that you can just play and keep going waves to waves and waves and just see how long you can last. In that mode, if you die, you're done. So overall, I had a lot of fun with the game. I would highly recommend, if you're going to play it, to play it in 3-player co-op. I don't think it'd be as fun playing it solo. So I'd give the game around an 8, 7.5, 8 range. I think it's a fun game. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.